Okay, we've been here for 2 hours already. Can't we just go? It's really just a bunch of trees. We could have just walked around the woods at home instead of driving hours to Shenandoah.
It's pronounced Shenandoah, and no, we couldn't have just gone to the woods at home. This is a national park. It's infinitely better than any forest we have near us, and it's got a waterfall.
If you say so. But what I don't get is why this is a national park. Did someone just see a bunch of trees and say, yep, this is a national park now? What's that even mean? Why do we have national parks?
Well, there's a lot more to it than that, so I'll start by telling you about the first national park.
That's Yellowstone, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you know that. Do you know anything else about Yellowstone?
No.
Well, Yellowstone was first discovered in 1870 by a group of explorers known as the Washburn Expedition. They thought the area was so beautiful that it was worth protecting for future generations.
What were they protecting it from?
Human interference, so that would include things like logging, diverting water for human use, development, and poaching. Basically anything that would alter the natural beauty of the place.
Oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. But how do they go about that? It seems like national parks are pretty big. I mean, this one definitely is. Wouldn't it be difficult to prevent all of that stuff?
You're not wrong. Yellowstone today is a little more than 3,000 square miles, which is larger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. It takes a lot of enforcement to protect something of that size, which is why the members of the Washburn Expedition wanted to create a bill to protect it. A lot of the inspiration for their proposed bill came from an act protecting Yosemite, which at the time was just a state park, but is now a national park. The group kept sending reports, pictures, and artwork to Congress, and the members of Congress were compelled to pass the bill. President Ulysses S. Grant finally enacted the bill called the Yellowstone National Park Protection Act on March 1, 1872, making it the first national park ever.
That sounds like it wouldn't be enough to stop a hunter or a logger. They could just walk into the park, do their thing, and leave, and no one would be the wiser.
That's a valid point, as well as a huge flaw in the origins of the park. At first, Yellowstone was just protected by Nathaniel P. Langford, who was a member of the original Washburn Expedition. He was an unpaid superintendent, so he had to earn his money in some other way and was not often around. Another problem the park faced was that there weren't really any laws that could be enforced to protect wildlife.
So what happened?
Well, Langford was removed from his position due to political reasons, and there were a slew of people who succeeded him. The first was Philetus W. Norris, who helped advance the facilities and protections at Yellowstone, including making a road system for visitors to use. He made a lot of progress, but as with Langford, he was removed because of political reasons, and he was followed by a bunch of superintendents who did absolutely nothing helpful. Congress saw that and wanted to change up the administration. They gave permission to the Secretary of the Interior, whose department administered to Yellowstone, to ask for help from the Secretary of War. That's when the Army took over in 1886.
The Army, what were they doing running a national park?
Mostly, they were just strengthening the enforcement in the park. Troops acted as guards for attractions, arrested poachers who threatened the park's wildlife, and made firmer rules.
That's great progress.
It was, but it still left a lot of what people desired from the park to be fulfilled.
What else did they want? Yellowstone was finally being protected. Wasn't that the goal?
Yes, but people also wanted to preserve the park, meaning they didn't want to just look at the park, they wanted to learn about it. And the Army couldn't do that, they just knew how to enforce stuff.
So, did the Army get taught about the parks or something?
Actually, they decided to start the National Park Service, which was and is dedicated to conserving unimpaired the natural and cultural resources and values of the national park system for the enjoyment, education, and inspiration of this and future generations. The National Park Service was established by the National Parks Organic Act when President Woodrow Wilson signed it on August 25, 1916. This made it a federal bureau within the Department of the Interior, which, if you remember, was responsible for Yellowstone before the Army stepped in. The Bureau became responsible for Yellowstone and 34 other national parks and monuments that had been established in the years since Yellowstone was first founded.
Okay, so everything was good then. There weren't any more problems?
Yeah, that's basically what has led to all the national parks as we know them today. In June 1933, though, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt made an executive order that transferred 56 national monuments and military sites from the Forest Service and the War Department to the National Park Service. This just broadened what the National Park Service protected.
Oh, cool. So how much does the National Park Service protect now?
Well, there's almost 400 national parks in the U.S., including military parks, national monuments, national parkways, seashores, and urban parks, and of course, natural wonders like Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon.
You said there's almost 400 in the U.S.?
Yeah, that number only accounts for the parks in the states and in U.S. territories, but so many countries around the world have created national parks to protect their natural wonders, all of which were inspired by national parks in America.
That's cool and all, but why exactly are they still important? The parks are protected, but why should people care beyond that?
Well, I actually know a national park ranger who works at both the home of Franklin D. Roosevelt and the Eleanor Roosevelt National Historic Sites. Her name's Lexi Kirchner, and she is super passionate about the parks and the National Park Service because, as she told me, there's something so remarkable, moving about knowing that each of these beautiful, momentous places we all care for is all of ours. The sites, the parks, the trees, the canyons, they belong to all of us, every American. They're part of our story, they're part of who we are as people, and we can all learn something from them.
Okay, I get it now. I guess we really couldn't have experienced something like this at home.
Yep, the national parks really are spectacular. Hey, I think I see that waterfall I told you about. I'll race you.
Not so fast.